I got my very first arc, and in today's video I'm gonna tell you all about it. So hello my fellow fantasy book lovers and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy, I'm a god girl from Belgium who loves to read fantasy books. I actually got my very first arc and it's something that I didn't know was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to be selected for this book and I loved every second of it. So in today's video I want to talk a little bit about arcs. What an arc is, how you can apply for it, how it works whenever you get an arc, and what I personally did. Now, whenever I started reading again, I didn't even know what an arc was. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to explain what an arc is and then talk about the arc that I read. So an arc, A-R-C, Advanced Reader Copy. So it's basically a book that is 99% finished, but not 100% yet. So the people who read it can still give feedback to have improvements done on this book if they make it by a certain deadline. Or it's also sometimes to just like a press release for a book. So a arc could be two things. The first type of arc is the arc that I've received, which is a self-pub arc. So the author has written the book and wants a few more people to give their opinions, to find little errors, etc. And the second type of arc that you see a lot more often is the promotional arc, which is actually sent out by publishing companies to people so that they can read and promote the book. Something that I have seen over the last few years is that there's a lot of publishers sending out arcs to people who are not specifically asking for it. The process of me getting this arc is that I had to fill in a document to apply to get the arc. Also give like a few reasons why I wanted to read the arc and like deadlines, etc. So yeah, whenever I was selected, I was so excited. The arc that I got is Eve Belknap's Stake Around and Find Out. And this is, of course, a vampire-based book. Yeah, the first arc that I got is like literally a book that I would have bought myself. And it is also how I decide if I want to apply for an arc or not. I have gotten a bunch of arc requests in my inbox because I do have an email associated with my social media, etc. And I've gotten a few arc requests or like people wanting to send me their arcs where I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is not the type of books that I've read or I want to read in the future or that are within what I generally read. So I think it's important if you are someone who wants to read arcs to be selective of which arcs you will select and which arcs you want to apply for. I prefer applying for an arc or getting asked if I want to read an arc than just rather getting sent it. Because let's face it, I have over 100 unread books on my shelves and I would rather prioritize a book that I actually want to read than a book that I'm not sure if I want to read because the theme maybe doesn't speak to me, etc. So I personally will never accept an arc that I don't want to read, and I'm very critical of arcs that I do read. So this arc is a vampire themed book. It is called Stake Around and Find Out by Eve Belknap, and we follow the main character. She's called Eva and she wants to become a vampire. She's mid-20s already and she still hasn't found a vampire to turn her or to become like their assistant and help them out. So the best next thing that she finds is to become a vampire hunter. So at the start of the book, we follow Eva as she's actually joining a group of vampire hunters and then like sees how things unfold once she is involved with said vampire hunters. Of course, she doesn't immediately encounter a vampire. However, she goes on the track of more vampires. However, on the other side, you of course have the vampires who don't want to actually get hunted by vampire hunters. And apparently there's also a pact that has been formed between humans and vampires that humans, in return of not hunting vampires, then vampires will not turn humans. So that's an issue for her. So in this book, we follow Eva as she goes along this journey. One of the vampire hunters is called Helsing. And yeah, we all know where that comes from. She's like the best of the vampire hunter coven type situation that she becomes part of. And I loved the humor in this book. It is so witty. It is so like, there are so many references and nudges and hints to pop culture, to other vampire books, to generally vampires, to shifting, etc. And I loved every second of it. Now, I took my time reading this book a little bit more slowly than I would have any other book. And that is part for me of the arc reading. Whenever I arc read, or whenever I will arc read in the future, and now I actually read a little bit slower, that I can really like have every chapter seep in. And by reading a little bit slower is how you can find the little errors, like a comma or a dot or a capital letter or words that have been repeated. And by reading a bit slower, that's when I find these little errors or inconsistencies or things that get repeated because there was a sentence almost identical in 2 chapters from each other. So that's when I notice these things. Whenever I speed trade through a book, which is what I usually do, we're not gonna lie, I don't really look at those things. Like when a book is finished, the whole story is more important than the capital letters and the exclamation points, etc. So for me, this arc read was really fun. How I did it, so I applied for the arc read. I actually got it as an EPUB, which I put on my e-reader. And whenever I found something, I literally took a picture with my phone of the screen, and then on the picture editing app in my phone, I would circle the thing and then I would send it to the author over Instagram. And the author, Evie, doesn't actually know I'm making this video, or maybe she does halfly, but Evie, amazing job on the book. I gave you a little bit of notes on things that I would personally improve on, but honestly, even as is, I loved it. There's another book by Evie that I have to shamefully admit that has been sitting on my shelf ever since I bought it. It is called The Tenfold Tenants. And now that I know how witty and well thought through and funny her writing style is, I want to read this next. So I hope when I go on holiday that I either take this with me or I will buy the EPUB version as well, because it's really not expensive. And for Stake Around and Find Out, because I actually got the EPUB for free in exchange for giving my feedback. I think I will actually buy the physical copy, because I will put the artwork here on screen. I love it. It's amazing. And during the book, there is this little girl that I'm not gonna talk about. She's amazing. I usually hate kids. So this kid draws. And at the end of the book, the drawings were included. And when she asks the main character Ava to draw with her is when the cover design is more or less drawn out by the main character. And I found that so good that these types of things, these types of references are taken in the artwork of the book, into the overall design, etc. It's so clever and I love it so much. So Stake Around and Find Out was really a book that I absolutely loved. It has vampires, it has humor, it is a fantasy book, it's urban fantasy, but it still has those like high fantasy elements that I really enjoy. I couldn't have picked a better first arc read to read, and now I'm actually curious if I will be applying for more arcs in the future. If I apply for more arcs, there are a few things that I feel they have to apply to for me to be able to read them. First of all, they have to be fantasy. They have to be in the fantasy realms that I like to read. So I like high fantasy, I like epic fantasy, I like vampires, dragons, those things. Other than that, I'm not sure what I would look for, but if the synopsis of the book already speaks to me, then that's a good reason for me to apply for an arc or to accept an arc if an author wants to send it to me. So if you like a book about a human who wants to become a vampire, who has been obsessed with vampires all her life, but somehow still hasn't found one and then decides to become a vampire hunter, like this book is packed with humor. The book has a little bit of romance underline, but it is by no way, shape or form a romance book or romantasy. It is really a good and funny fantasy book with vampires. So if you're interested, the links to the book will be in the description box of this video. As per usual, Stake Around and Find Out is being released on September 3rd, and I cannot wait for all of you to read it as well. I have given it a 5-star rating on Goodreads because I think she deserves it. And yes, I will still be getting a physical copy whenever it releases, because I want it on my shelves with my other vampire books, because I thought it really lived up to the expectations that it had set for me. Should you still have any questions at all, feel free to ask them in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you here for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!